The new Soulplates. I've been waiting for these for quite a long time. I'm going to show you all the little details, all the fuss that went into making this. This is super exciting stuff, even though it might look quite boring or lame. But who cares? So, these Soulplates. I first thought about this around last year's summer when I got the USD carbon skates. Not for the first, but for the second time, because it took me quite a lot of work to make these skates work for me. Around last time during summer, I ordered the symmetrics plates from Adapt, and I really like those plates. I'm going to bring them over. 1 second. These are the Adapt Soulplates, the symmetric Soulplates to be exact. These are the size extra large, and this is how they look next to the size 46 shell or boot. So I couldn't deny it, and I won't deny it, that these Soulplates were inspired by the, I'm going to just call them Adapt Soulplates. It's much more easier to say than symmetrics. I really like these Soulplates. These are very ideal for any use. It's a very universal, very versatile Soulplate. It is machined. This material is secret. They keep it secret. I will tell you how it feels. If you know UHMW, just standard generic UHMW is a quite soft but very good self-lubricating plastic. So called. The actual precise name is PE 1000. And let's compare that to POM. It is also called Darwin. This is a much more glacier material, much more harder. Doesn't really have a lot of bend and flex to it compared to UHMW, which is a much more softer, much more flexible, bendier material. The POM or Dalrin feels much it gives you much more harder grind feel. It's quite great on rails or anything that is metal. But if you try sliding on rough ledges with POM, by the way, Slick's Soulplates Aeon sliders are also made from this exact material. I got this from Elliot as a small sample. So my point is that the Adapt Soulplates are a special blend in the hardness, and the properties are somewhere between the soft UGMW and the very rigid and hard POM. Even though this material is just a bit hard for me, harder than what I would prefer. So I would generally stick to the regular off-the-shelf UHMW or PE 1000. Alright, so let's get into the details, because this one, there were a lot of things that went into this. I'm going to show you just the approximate similarities and differences. I didn't do the holes, these oblique recessed areas for the Quattro system, which I will not be using. I made this cell plate mostly or only for the USD carbons. For my adopt skates, I will have a somewhat similar, a bit shorter UHMW custom made DIY cell plate. I made these cell plates using only hand tools because I was running into walls when I tried to get this piece machined. Most machinists and machine shops told me that it would cost some kind of exorbitant amount to produce one pair, so I just got impatient, a bit fed up. So I'm a quite spiteful guy, so if I want to make something, I do it whatever it takes. So I just bought I find it even took me, it was all just a challenge to find a UHMW sheet that is 20 millimeter thick in natural color. Took me a while to find it, and I had to import it. So I made it with using hand tools, paper stencils. I designed it in CAD software, but I used paper stencils and hand tools like saws, and I did the milling with a wooden mill that is handheld, hand controlled. So that is why this looks a bit wonky and not very precisely machined, at least from, maybe it's not that visible from afar, but if you really start measuring and looking at it from up close, you will see that it's quite imperfect, but it is just as good that it fits and it also works. I probably won't be able to recall all the dimensions and minute differences between the two saws. The outer sliding area, your positive side of the plate, is the same exact width. It looks bulkier, mostly because of I didn't cut this part off, I didn't round it off that much. It's only for the reason because I really wanted to have a much wider, I call it like rough or tough edge. So technically I could even try negative rough or tough grinds if I'm feeling adventurous. I'm not sure that I'm going to, but I definitely have the option. Doing regular rough or tough grinds with these plates, it's much easier. If you look at the difference, it is nearly double the width of the original Adapt saw plate. I made the negatives wider, I think about 2 or 3 millimeters. I'm going to try to show it to you. Line it up. Yep, it's lined up. So you could see it's about 3 millimeters wider negative. Because I really like my negatives, and negatives are just so nasty because it is such an unnatural position to lock on and stay on in a negative trick. And I was also thinking about, I think it's called making it juiced, but I'm not completely sure, that it would be very cool to have the negative side to machine or sand or cut the sole plate in a way that I would remove material here, so that would allow much stronger lock for the negative tricks, because it is normally a problem with negative tricks that they just slip off. It's harder to stay on them. Alright, so let's get into the pattern that I picked. This is not just some random pattern. I was I was doing a lot of iterations to get to this one, and I don't you think I would already change it. I already have a bunch of ideas how to improve this pattern. I mostly need this pattern for several reasons. Let's get into them. First thing is I need to keep this plate light as possible. So that is why I removed quite a lot of material. Also, the second reason is keeping I noticed that if you keep the surface area, the contact area quite small, you get much more better sliding, much less friction. But I'm not gonna get into this because I'm not completely sure, but so far it works for me to have hard edges and small contact area for the shape of the recessed pattern is I didn't want to have anything that is perpendicular to the grinding direction, because my thinking was that during testing that didn't work out. I had similar perpendicular edges, even if sharp edges, they didn't really help with grinding, but it seems like these non-perpendicular curved sharp edges help with help lowering the friction, getting better grinding, better slides with this pattern. Also, I really want to keep some material here because on the adapt plates, these are machined out, the wheel wells. I really wanted to keep just a little material here because during winter, or pretty much any time, there's a lot of dust that gets caught on the sole of the bottom of your boot, and I would rather just have any kind of mud, dirt, or dust collect here rather than on the bottom side of my boots. I put a lot of thought into designing the middle, this half circle recess here. I mostly wanted it to still have the option to do I'm not sure what they are called, these turning backslides or whatever you call them, macchios, on spherical objects or on poles. And I'm gonna show you, I'm just gonna play an example. So I just wanted to have this option here to have this lock on in one way. And the most obvious and most unique feature is the multiple grooves. These are narrow grooves. I started it, the original design had only 2 grooves on each side. Pretty much not sure about the inside. I think with the second version I will just do a regular wide groove on the inside, but so far I'm really liking to have 3 grooves on the outside, 3 narrow but somewhat deep grooves, not very deep but narrow grooves on the outside. This might going to be reworked in many ways. I'm thinking about making the grooves orient differently, but I'm not going to get into that. I will be just testing these for a couple more months. Alright, so I'm sure there are a couple people who are laughing or their hair is on fire. Like, why on freaking earth would you have 3 grooves? And I'll let you know I'll let you know right now. It's a lot of fun. It's very interesting. It's very helpful because I normally call it like a shifter. It's like a speed shifter that when I do grinds, certain grinds are ideal in certain grooves. That really depends. It varies from person to person. So there are some tricks that I would put in the forward groove. Let's say a regular back roll would be in the middle groove. A backslide would definitely be in the rear grooves. In the rear groove. I was never really good at torque tricks, but with this setup and this saw plate, I finally managed to get some kind of not too bad looking front torques and back torques, and that was the one of the tricks that I was never really able to do, not with any confidence until now. And I mostly noticed that I'm utilizing the rear groove for Unity Savannas, and I mostly it's really nice to have the have the free grooves. You could really get into very stable and very natural foot positions, and but you're not fully locked in, so you could switch between positions very easily. It's a bit hard to show, so I think I'm going to call this a video. I'm really happy with this saw plate. I might going to be starting the second version after I finish testing this one. Thanks for watching, guys.